Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic, the all-open format show here on the John Campea YouTube channel, where all we do is take your questions, your topics, your comments, the things you want to talk about. That's what the entire next, almost an hour is going to be about. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and thank you so much, guys, for being here today. This is probably my favorite regular show that we do here, just because it is so interactive and just so fly off the cuff. We're just a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler, talking about movies and some TV and whatever else that we want to talk about. And I always have a good time doing this. So without any further ado, let's dive into the first topic today. And the first topic today, the first person to get one in here is OMG Ruler, who writes, as I hit this thing, John, did you get the Justice League yet? I got all 3 exclusives. No, I have not got it yet. I probably won't get it for a little while. I saw it 6 or 7 times in theaters, so I'm good right now. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll probably wait just till the price comes down a little bit. Wait for it to be out for a few weeks, and then the price comes down a bit. And I probably won't buy the Blu-ray. I'll probably just buy, streaming, because I'm not a physical media guy anymore. I don't buy physical media. I basically get all my movies now on streaming. And my streaming service of choice is the Google Play Store, so I buy most of my stuff from there. But few weeks, I'll grab it once the price comes down a touch, and then I'll probably watch it 2 or 3 more times. All right, next one comes to us from Master Zhang, who writes, have you seen *Halt and Catch Fire*? Very underrated. You know what's funny? I hear a lot of very good things about that. And by the way, plug time, you should download the Stardust app and use it to recommend *Halt and Catch Fire*. I think a lot of people would appreciate that. I've heard a lot of people say some very good things about it. Mackenzie Davis, who apparently, if I'm not mistaken, Mackenzie Davis comes from out of *Halt and Catch Fire*. She is, of course, just been, or it looks like she's getting close. She's in negotiations to join the new Terminator movie. So there's that. That gets me interested in it too. But I've heard a lot of people say some very good things about *Halt and Catch Fire*. And this is one of those shows where not only have I not seen it, I know nothing about it. I swear to God, I don't know the first thing about that. I have no idea what it's about. For all I know, it's about alien crocodiles. Seriously, for all I know, that's what the show's about. Otherwise, I have no concept about what that show's about. But I will have to check it out here pretty soon. All right, Rex Cousins writes, Negan, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, has been vocal about wanting to play Thomas Wayne in Flashpoint. I hope he gets the chance. Do you think we will see him in Flashpoint? Maybe, maybe not. First of all, I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. To me, he will always be John Winchester. He's Sam and Dean's dad from Supernatural. That's what he will always be. But one of the things that really points towards him maybe being in Flashpoint is the fact that why would you get Jeffrey Dean Morgan, like an actor of the caliber of Jeffrey Dean Morgan, to come and be in Batman vs. Superman for one scene with like half of a line? And then the woman playing Martha Wayne was another girl from Walking Dead. I've always had it in the back of my head that they had some kind of plan for that. That there was some future plan. You don't get Jeffrey Dean Morgan, who is not the biggest A-list star in Hollywood, but he is a firmly established name. I just don't see why you go out and get Jeffrey Dean Morgan to play a one-line guy. So I think maybe the plan was always to have him in Flashpoint. So there's that. As far as an actor being vocal about wanting a role, who the hell cares? Every actor wants every role. Trust me. Every actor in Hollywood, working and non-working, wants to be in Flashpoint. Unless their name is Brad Pitt or something like that. Every actor wants to be in Flashpoint. Jeffrey Dean Morgan wants to be in Flashpoint. Yeah, every actor wants to be in Flashpoint. Really? An actor? Somebody who acts for a living wants to be in a huge, big blockbuster hit that a lot of people are going to see and recognize them and make their career? Yeah, of course they do. But I've always kind of suspected that that's always been the plan, but we'll have to wait and see. All right, next one comes to us from Micah T, who writes, rewatched the Phase 3 announcement on YouTube recently. I was actually there in person at the El Capitan Theater when they made that announcement. Rewatched the Phase 3 announcement on YouTube recently, and it's crazy to me that besides Inhumans, Marvel delivered on everything they promised with only shuffling some things around for Spider-Man. Wild. Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Marvel is not reactionary. Marvel makes their plans, they think their plans out, and then they stick to their plans. And that just goes, I mean, how many shifts and changes and whatever have we seen with the DCU? Tons. There was the Inhumans thing. I have a feeling that Inhumans thing was doomed right from the start. I mean, I've always had the feeling that Inhumans project was doomed right from the get-go. And sure enough, then they went to TV, and it was a disaster on TV, and whatever. And yeah, you're right. For the most part, everything else has gone according to plan. And that's just kind of the way things go there. And I remember being there that day. It was the first time they brought out Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. They brought him out on stage. I remember this. You had Robert Downey Jr. on stage. You had Chris Evans on stage. And you had Chadwick Boseman. They each were tugging on his arm as if they were playing tug of war with him. It was a great festive circus-like atmosphere. It was a lot of fun to be at. They held it at the El Capitan in Hollywood. I'm hoping they do one again for Phase 4. I'm hoping they hold a big event like that for Phase 4. Whether they do or don't know, but we'll just have to see how that goes. All right. Good observation, by the way, Micah. ZOMG Ruler writes, would love to see an Infinite Crisis film. I mean, a lot of people have mentioned that. Here's the thing about an Infinite Crisis film. I think it's a little too inside baseball for comic book fans. I don't know that you can make that and have the average film goer get excited about it. And if you do, you'd have to significantly change it. Much like they significantly changed X-Men Days of Future Past, much like they significantly changed Civil War, much like they changed a lot of different things. Those movies look very different from what their comic books look like. If you were to do a movie and call it Infinite Crisis or A Crisis on Infinite Earths or whatever you wanted to do, any movie like that in that vein, you'd have to majorly tool with it. And I don't know if that would piss off comic book fans or not, but you can't put a movie like that out and expect that the average movie going on is going to get on board with it. That's just my feelings on it. Sujith writes, mourning the loss of Stephen Hawking. He was my hero growing up. I look at life and the universe like I do now because of him. Can't believe he's gone. Really, when you look at his physical condition, it's kind of amazing we had him as long as we did. It really is kind of amazing he was around as long as he did and he had the impact that he had. Let's see. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? There we go. Nathan Oswald writes, a few remakes that are even better than the original. Ocean's 11, I agree. The Thing, I agree. The Fly, I agree. 310 to Yuma, I agree. King Kong 2005, maybe. I'm not so sure about that one. Close though. Yeah, there are a number of remakes. These are just some of the films that get mentioned that I like to bring up now and again whenever somebody says, remakes are all bad. Really? I mean, if it wasn't for remakes, another remake that's better than the original is Scarface. I mean, if it wasn't for remakes, we never would have had Scarface. We never would have had The Thing. We never would have had The Fly. We never would have had The Departed, the Academy Award winning Best Picture. There's lots of great films that have come out of being remakes, and the kind of lazy, all remakes are bad attitude is one I kind of cringe at a little bit whenever people throw those out. It's like, really? Because there are a lot of remakes that are really quite good. Not all of them are better than the original, but there are a number of remakes that maybe aren't as good as the original, but are really quite good. And now we've got another good movie to enjoy. So I've never understood the resistance to remakes, to be honest with you. DKid19 writes, about to start working at an AMC theater. Any tips? Well, I worked for the company AMC Theaters, but I never worked at an AMC theater. Like, I never worked as like one of the staff at an AMC theater. So I really wouldn't know what to tell you, except whatever you do, if you can avoid it at any costs, never deal with the AMC Theaters HR department. Granted, this is just my experience and my personal point of view. But while I have great fondness in my heart still for AMC Theaters as a company as a whole, I do. AMC Theaters as a company as a whole will always hold a very dear place in my heart. But the HR department of AMC is a bunch of incompetent, moronic, just insipid, clueless jackals. They're really run by a bunch of frogs frogs without their legs, just kind of rolling around and chirping a lot for the sake of making noise to make it sound like they have a purpose there. The degree of idiocy in the AMC HR department, and in particular the people that run the HR department at AMC theaters, just a bunch of clueless jackals. I really can't emphasize enough just how idiotic the people who run the HR system at AMC theaters are, in my opinion. But other than that, the company as a whole is great. I have a great place in my heart for them. And so my best piece of advice for anybody working at AMC is, in as far as you possibly can, avoid the idiots that work in the HR department. There's my thoughts on that. D. Wathiers writes, John, Sally Hawkins brings home a creature in distress in Paddington and in Shape of Water. Bathroom floods in both movies. Coincidence? Methinks not. Yes, but the one big difference, though, D. Wathers, is that when Paddington's bathroom floods, she doesn't fuck Paddington. That's the big difference between The Shape of Water and Paddington. Brings home distressed creatures, yes. Bathrooms floods. Oh, but she fucks the sea monster. But she does not fuck Paddington. Unless that's on a deleted scene on a Blu-ray that we're not familiar with. I'm not here to judge anybody. But good observation. All right. Next one comes to us from Adamus. And Adamus writes, where did Adamus go? What are your thoughts on Ash versus the Evil Dead? Well, to be honest, I have never really watched the show. I mean, I've seen one or two, like parts of one or two episodes, but I've never really watched the show that much, which was a little bit embarrassing because back at a former place I used to work, we had, the cast from Ash vs. Evil Dead come in, and I had never even watched the show, so I didn't even bother going in the room. I had other people interview. It was fine. I just didn't even go in the room because I didn't want to face the embarrassing situation of having these talented people in the studio, and I had never even watched the show. I hear good things about it, but I've never bothered really sitting down to watch it, so I can't really give you an informed opinion about that. Chris Martin writes, do you have any favorite Peter Cetera hits? Some of mine are Glory of Love, Hard to Say I'm Sorry. Peter Cetera, one of the musical instruments that I play is piano. And one of the first songs, like radio songs that I learned, I was much younger obviously, but that I learned was to learn how to play the Glory of Love from Karate Kid 2. Dun, 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 dun. And of course, Peter Cetera, did you like my piano impersonation, by the way? Peter Cetera had like one of the all-time most difficult voices to try to mimic, right? He had that really super high, it wasn't falsetto, but it was this super high, hold me now, it's hard for me to say I'm sorry. Of course, he had a lot of big hits when he was with Chicago as well, but I'd say my all-time favorite Peter Cetera song was probably Glory of Love, probably because I played it like a million times on the piano, because I thought it made me look cool to girls, and I was wrong. Chris Martin writes, fan of the band Toto. I couldn't name two songs by Toto. They're the song that sings Africa, right? Just like the rain stand in Africa. I mean, if that's Toto, I know that one. I couldn't name a second one. So I cannot sit here and claim to be a fan of the band Toto. I'm not saying I dislike them. I just can't name two songs by them. Jeremiah, they were a bit before my time. Jeremiah J writes, hey, John, would you and your team do a top 10 powerful Avengers before Infinity War? Sorry for nerding out, but would love your thoughts. Top 10 powerful Avengers. Well, I mean, that would just all be guessing, right? I mean, the writers of the movie will tell us who the most powerful are. I mean, Hulk is the most powerful Avenger. Strongest Avenger. I mean, at least he's the strongest. So no, I probably wouldn't make that list because it's all so purely subjective, just guesswork, really. Only the writers of the movies can probably do that. So I probably wouldn't take a swing at that. But I don't know, maybe Ray or Jonathan will want to kick that out. I'll also run it by them. Chris Bradford writes, can you believe Kirk Douglas is 101 years old? That's crazy. I hope I can live that long. Yeah, Kurt Douglas. He was just at the Golden Globes. I mean, clearly he's in bad shape today. But, I mean, to quote Yoda, when 101 are you, look as good will you. I can't even remember it. I'm sounding more like Ernie right now. But, when 700 years are you, look as good, whatever the line is, I forget it. But I mean, yeah, he's clearly looking kind of rough shape, but man, Spartacus. When I think of Kirk Douglas, I just think of Spartacus. Still one of my all-time favorite movies. Kirk Douglas is the definition of a movie star. He embodied it, man. For that golden age of Hollywood, he was the living embodiment of what it was to be a movie star. And it's crazy, to look at Michael Douglas now, and I'm a big fan of Michael Douglas, but to think Michael Douglas's dad is still with us, 101 years old. I guess when Catherine Zeta-Jones is your daughter-in-law, you got something to live for. Okay, next one. Anthony Montez writes, "Hey John, would you rather Rush Hour 4 or Shanghai 3? Probably Shanghai 3. Because at least I like half of the Shanghai movies. I only like 1/3 of the Rush Hour movies. I'm not a big fan of Rush Hour 1. Definitely didn't like Rush Hour 3. Big fan of Rush Hour 2. Really liked Rush Hour 2. But I'm 1-for-1 with Shanghai. The first one, Shanghai Noon, was great. Shanghai Nights, not so much. I would love to see. I really wouldn't mind at all seeing a Shanghai 3. So I'll take Shanghai 3 over Rush Hour 4. Anthony R. writes, I see where this is going. Anthony R. writes, "Watching The Last Jedi bonus content right now. Kathleen Kennedy looks very disinterested / fake. I can't put my finger on it, but this trilogy is soulless, and the behind the scenes don't ease my worries." I think Kathleen Kennedy's great. I mean, first of all, you talk to the greatest filmmakers in the world right now. You talk to Steven Spielberg. You talk to Martin Scorsese. You talk to George Lucas. You talk to all of them. To those people, Kathleen Kennedy is like one of the best film producers in the business, maybe in the history of Hollywood. And if George Lucas and if Steven Spielberg and guys like that will say that, that's good enough for me. To me, no, they have not been soulless at all. I thought The Force Awakens was wonderful. I love The Force Awakens. I've mentioned a number of times I watched that movie. I like it more and more every single time. With my one big gripe about how they sent out Han Solo. Not that Han Solo died, that's fine. I thought they could have set it up so it had more emotional impact. That and the whole Rathtars scene I thought was terrible. But other than that, I love that movie. I thought Rogue One was wonderful. And I really like The Last Jedi, although I have my issues with The Last Jedi. A lot of the issues that people have with The Last Jedi, I'll also agree with. But still, for me, overall, the good outweighed the bad, and I still liked it. I thought the Luke Skywalker stuff was magnificent. Kathleen Kennedy loves that job. Kathleen Kennedy loves Lucasfilm. She loves Lucasfilm. She loves Star Wars as passionately as anybody else in the world. And now my biggest criticism of Kathleen Kennedy has come from the number one job she has. And you've heard me say this before. The most important job she has is getting the right directors in place for the movies and making sure that she and Lucasfilm and those directors are on the exact same page before hiring those directors and setting them loose. That is the most single important job that she has for Lucasfilm. And on that level, she has struggled. We saw that with Colin Trevorrow. We saw that with, why am I forgetting the name of the director of Chronicle, who was supposed to do the Boba Fett movie, and then they let him go, the problems they had with Lord Miller, and it's on. And it's all always surrounding, different visions. Really, isn't that something you should have figured out before you hired them to direct this film? And that is something she has really struggled in. And maybe that might have something to do with the fact that her being the head of studio is a new thing for her. Maybe that's beginner's jitters for her. That's the parts to me that she seems to be struggling with. And that on that level, that's where I've had my concerns. But everything else, never doubt Kathleen Kennedy's passion for Star Wars. She loves Star Wars deeply. She's worked for Star Wars. She's poured blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of her professional life into Star Wars, even before she took over for George Lucas. That George Lucas, by the way, handpicked her. So to criticize her is to criticize George Lucas. And I've criticized George Lucas, even though I worship at his altar. I love George Lucas. But But yeah, I never make any doubts that she loves Star Wars, and whether you like or don't like the movies, that's totally subjective and that's up to you. But never, I'd want to encourage you, never fool yourself into thinking that any problems that you have with Star Wars is because Kathleen Kennedy isn't interested in Star Wars or doesn't have passion for Star Wars. That is just flatly not true. It doesn't mean it'll change your mind about Star Wars. Like if they're not working for you, then they're not working for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. Your opinion is every bit as valid as mine. But don't fool yourself into thinking that the reason I don't like Star Wars is because of her. No, it's probably something else that has to do with the films. That's just what I would encourage. All right, next one comes to us from Tom Wyenberg, who writes, I'm in the middle of rewatching all the MCU films before Infinity War. Watched Thor yesterday. I think you changed my mind on that movie. At first, I didn't like it all that much. Now, I think it's amazing. You know what, Tom? Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to hear that. I am. I'm completely thrilled to hear that. But you know what? When I saw Thor for the first time, the first Thor movie, directed by the great Kenneth Branagh, I was floored that there were people who didn't like the movie. Like, we all have movies that we like that we totally understand why other people don't. Like, I love this movie, but I totally get why everybody else didn't. I remember when I saw Thor, I thought it was brilliant. Just brilliant. I loved that movie. And it was one of those movies that to me is like, and I hear all these other people who didn't like it. I'm like, are you, what? You didn't like, really? Like, it's all subjective. I respected that they didn't like it. I just couldn't fathom not liking this incredibly brilliant movie. Like what Kenneth Branagh brought to that movie, I just thought they haven't been able to replicate in the MCU. What Kenneth Branagh brought to Thor, and I'm not saying that Thor is the best movie in the MCU, but the certain elements and dimensions that Kenneth Branagh brought to that movie, I have not seen any other filmmaker in the MCU be able to replicate. The real emotional hooks, like that father and son stuff between Loki and Odin and those deeper themes, I just haven't seen another MCU film really be able to replicate that. And, hey, that's okay. Not everybody can be Kenneth Branagh. I mean, Lord Kenneth Branagh is Kenneth Branagh for a reason. He's amazing. Really excited to see what he does with this Artemis Fowl thing they're doing. I loved what he did with Cinderella. Oh my God, what he did with Cinderella was amazing. Anyway. So, hey, man, I'm thrilled that you're getting on board with it. Nothing wrong with it if you're somebody who doesn't like Thor. That's totally cool. But Tom, I'm totally thrilled that you're getting on board with it. I just appreciate that movie so much. And yes, to me, it is a top 10 best comic book films of all time. Greetings from Gallifrey writes, hey, Mr. Campea, what are your thoughts on Xena the Warrior Princess show? And do you think we'll ever get a TV or movie reboot? No, I don't. Well, a TV reboot, maybe. Xena the Warrior Princess was like sugar cubes. They're fun, they're sweet, whatever. They're just empty calories, but it's fun. And the thing about Xena was it was in that vein of, obviously it was a spinoff of Hercules and all that kind of stuff. It was fun. And the relationship between her and the redheaded girl, I can't remember her sidekick girl's name, but it was a fun little show. I watched a whole bunch of reruns. I never watched it, as it was airing, but I would watch a whole bunch of reruns of them. I can't see them ever doing a movie about it. They might, totally might. I just don't see it personally right now. But a TV relaunch of a Xena, I could see that happening. And I like Lucy Lawless. I like Lucy Lawless quite a bit. Her turns on Battlestar Galactica was incredible. That's my favorite television show of all time. She had a great recurring character on Parks and Rec as Ron Swanson's love interest. I really love Lucy Lawless, so anything with Lucy Lawless, I'll give a shot. DKid19 writes, Tessa, Idris, and Taika characters are also on Thor's ship. What do you think happens to them? Haven't heard too many people mention that. Yeah, so we got Korg, we got Heimdall, we got Valkyrie are all also on the ship, and all of Asgard. And don't forget Meek. Meek is on that ship too. Meek could change the destiny of the entire universe now that he's not dead. Yes, I don't know. I simply do not know. All I know, especially if you watched the John Campea show earlier today, we talked a little bit about Mark Ruffalo's most recent comments about Hulk and saying that Hulk knows better than anybody just how powerful Thanos is. So I'm guessing Thanos kicks his ass too. I mean, I think we all assume something bad happens to Thor's ship. But I think it's going to be like MCU, like crisis levels, like something more horrible than we've ever seen. Although we saw Asgard get destroyed in Thor 3, so I mean, that's pretty bad. But I mean, I think we're going to see something epically destructive. And I don't know. I mean, people loved Korg, and I think people would love to see Korg in a Thor 4. I don't know if they'll kill him off, but maybe they do. Maybe they kill Korg. Tessa Thompson is not dying. They're not killing Valkyrie. They're already talking about, there have been those stories about Tessa Thompson and a couple of other female cast members in the MCU maybe doing an all-female MCU film, so we know Valkyrie doesn't die. I don't think they'll kill off Heimdall, but we'll have to see. Maybe there is escape ships or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, you're right, man. That is something people aren't talking about. We're talking about Thor floating in space. We're talking about Hulk landing up on Earth. But Korg, Heimdall, Valkyrie. What happens to those three? Less than 7 weeks, and we're going to find out. All right, Chris Martin writes, John, should I buy the Emperor Return of the Jedi hot toy? It looks amazing. Hint, say yes. Doesn't come out for another year. Say, oh, really? Well, I mean, the answer to that is yes. I mean, these things are like $250 to $300. So, I mean, don't spend your rent money on it by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, seriously, if the hot toys are even just like $80 cheaper on average, like if they were like $180, I would probably have cases of them. As things stand, I have about 6 or 7 in total. But they're worth it, but they're just too much money for me to justify making a real habit out of buying. So I've got a few. I'm happy with the ones that I have. I cannot allow myself get into the habit of buying them because it's like a tattoo, right? Once you buy one more, you got the urge to buy 3 or 4 more. Like I've known people who got like one tattoo and then they get addicted to it, and suddenly now they've got sleeves and necks and all that kind of nonsense. So I can't let myself get too many of them. So you can buy it on behalf of all of us. You get it and then share some pictures with the rest of us. Let's see. Jeremiah J writes, Martha Wayne. I am Ron Burgundy writes, where would you recommend for poker cash game near Burbank/LA? The Bike. I'm only in LA for a day, looking to buy in for around $300. Yeah, I think the best game. I mean, the biggest poker room I think in the United States is Commerce Casino in Los Angeles, but personally, I like playing at the Bicycle Casino. I do. That's where I like to go. I don't play a lot of cash games anymore. Usually most of my poker playing now is just in Vegas. I used to go about 2 or 3 times a month and play poker in LA. And where I would usually go is the Bike. It's a good place, nice atmosphere, free food if you sit at the 1-3 table. And I think the buy-in there is $300. So yeah, the Bicycle, the 1-3 table for $300. That's your best bet there. Alex Pitt writes, which is your favorite, Warcraft or Tomb Raider? Video game, movie, characters. If you're saying movie, Tomb Raider's probably the better movie. I liked Warcraft, but I think I like Tomb Raider a little bit more. As far as game goes, easily Warcraft. Warcraft by a mile for me. Chris Martin writes, and by the way, guys, my Tomb Raider review is now up on my YouTube channel. If you haven't had a chance to catch that yet, it's on my YouTube channel right now. You can go find that there. Chris Martin writes, just rewatched Mrs. Doubtfire. What a great comedy. What a great movie. I miss Robin Williams, man. It's actually so bittersweet watching Robin Williams movies. Bittersweet because Robin Williams movies bring so much joy, yet it's so painful at the same time because you really feel his loss. Like when you think about Robin Williams and you're watching his movies, you get all happy and smile, and then you realize, oh yeah, we're never going to get another Robin Williams movie again. It becomes so sad and disappointing, but that just adds to the treasure of it. And yeah, Mrs. Doubtfire was one of his best. Mrs. Doubtfire was absolutely one of his best. Jeremiah J writes, I watched Avengers on FX last night. Great Infinity War marketing strategy. I'm a DC fan, but it's hard not to really enjoy the MCU right now. Yeah, I mean, look, and there's nothing wrong with being fans of both. I mean, I'm a fan of both. I love them both. I think one has their act together a little better than the other one does right now, but I'm still a fan of both. But yeah, they're doing some good. Like Infinity War was on TV. Infinity War was not on TV the other day. Sorry. Age of Ultron was on TV the other day. I had a great time watching that. They're putting Avengers back on. You know, we're going to talk about it tomorrow on the John Campea show, but AMC Theaters just announced like a 31-hour marathon of the MCU films before debuting Infinity War. So they are going right to the hilt on their marketing and their enthusiasm for this thing, and it's really, really cool to see. All right. Next one comes to us from Alan Gonzalez, who writes, oops, sorry, guys. Oh, there it is. Here we go. Alan Gonzalez writes, sorry, guys. Maybe the MCU had its flop already with Iron Man 2 and 3. You cannot call movies that made that much money flops. You just can't. I mean, flop, it's a more, you're looking at it in a more total package. Like the audience didn't like it, and it didn't do well at the box office, and the critics, and just Iron Man 2 and 3 just simply made far too much bank. Like Iron Man 3 made like $1.2 billion. So when a movie makes that much money, you simply cannot with a straight face call it a flop. You just can't. Mr. Film writes, I think Infinity War is a cultural event. Thoughts? No. It's going to be popular. But it's a comic book movie. It's not a cultural event. I don't see it as a cultural event. It's going to be a big event. I don't think it's going to be as big as the launch of The Force Awakens, for example. I don't know that I would call it a cultural event. You could certainly make arguments for it being that. I personally wouldn't look at it that way, but who knows? Maybe my mind could be changed by tomorrow on that. Eric the Red 06 writes, if there was no MCU and you could pick one Marvel superhero for Christopher Nolan to direct a trilogy, who would it be? Again, with the what movie would you like this director to direct? I don't care. Any of them. The character doesn't matter. It's because look, we've seen amazing comic book characters being used in terrible, terrible movies. We've seen D-list nobody characters become the smash hit of a movie. It almost doesn't matter. You could put any comic book character in Christopher Nolan's hands and he will make something good out of it. He'll tell a great story using that character. Doesn't matter what, and we've seen great characters from comics in terrible movies and be used. It's all about the filmmaker and what they decide to do with that character. So really the answer for me is I wouldn't care. I really wouldn't care. Whatever one Christopher Nolan would want to pick and do is totally fine with me. Ultimately, I really just don't care. Greetings from Gallifrey writes, I can't wait for Infinity War. It's going to be awesome, but I want to see Hulk and Thanos throw down. Do you think they will? And in your opinion, who would win? Well, again, if you watch the John Campea show this morning, we talked about that. It sounds like Hulk is going to throw down with Thanos. It sounds like, from Mark Ruffalo's comments, it sounds like Hulk is going to throw down with Thanos, and it sounds like he's going to get his ass handed to him. It sounds like Thanos is going to hand Hulk his ass and get the hell kicked out of him. So apparently the answer to that question, I mean, we'll find out for sure in a couple of weeks, but it sounds like Thanos wins that fight and maybe even wins it kind of easily, because when Hulk throws down with him, if that's what happens, Hulk is throwing down with him with Thor there, with Heimdall there, with Valkyrie there, with Korg there, with a whole slew of Asgardians there, and yet still get his ass handed to him, and he ends up being spitballed back to Earth. So it sounds like he's going to get his ass handed to him. I'm very excited about the scene, though. I really am. Brian T. Brawler writes, so I just wanted to know what happened to Michael Chiklis. I haven't seen or heard him in a while. What about you, John? Thanks for answering my question. Michael Chiklis has been very busy. I mean, he has stayed very, very active ever since The Shield was done. I mean, most recently, he was a regular character on Gotham. He was the police captain in Gotham. He was there for a while. I just did, on the John Campea show, we just did a story about a brand new series. He's going to be playing a cop again in a brand new series that's getting launched out there. So yeah, Michael Chiklis has stayed quite busy. His career really hasn't slowed down. Not a lot going on in movies per se, since his run is the thing, but on television he's been very prolific, doing a lot of work on television. Alan Gonzalez writes, would you like to see the MCU actors in a different universe or movie? We see lots of MCU actors in lots of different movies. Scarlett Johansson's in a ton of different movies. Chris Evans does a lot of different movies. Chris Hemsworth does different movies. Robert Downey Jr. does different movies. They all do different movies. So I'm not really quite sure what you're asking, Alan. You might have to be a little bit more specific than that, because I mean, the MCU actors are in tons of different movies. Mark Ruffalo is in tons of different movies. They're all in tons of different movies. So I'm not quite sure I'm getting the gist of your question. You might have to reword that. Jeremiah J. writes, By watching your movie vlog and open mic every day, I hang out with you more than anyone else every week. Crazy. By the way, I love the new movie blog setup. Oh, thanks so much, Jeremiah, and thank you for being a part of this. Not just with me, but with everybody else here. We got one big, great movie fan community and TV fan community. I love that you guys join in here. I love being a part of this. When I start off the show by saying it is an honor and a privilege, I know that just sounds like my script. But believe me, it is an honor and a privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here and doing this stuff. It's great fun. You guys make this worthwhile for me. So thank you for being a part of it, Jeremiah. I really appreciate it. Matt Thornton writes, is it me or are more Star Wars fans these days finally realizing that Attack of the Clones is the actual weakest Star Wars movie and not the Phantom Menace? I'll be honest with you, Matt. I don't know that there's ever been a time that the majority of Star Wars fans didn't think Attack of the Clones was worse than the Phantom Menace. For the last 15 years, I think it's been a commonly understood thing that Attack of the Clones was probably the worst of the bunch. So maybe you travel in certain circles where you've got certain friends that think the Phantom Menace is worse than Attack of the Clones. All I can tell you is that in the 2 different countries I've lived in and in the 4 different cities in the past 15 years, everybody has pretty much always universally acknowledged a belief that Attack of the Clones was even far worse than even the Phantom Menace. I mean, so again, those are just all the circles, the cities, the towns, the friend circles I've been in have always pretty much thought Attack of the Clones was the worst. So I don't know if that's a new phenomenon that people are coming around to that way of thinking. Then again, like maybe your circle of friends, that's been the way they thought. I've never come across that myself personally. My experience has always been most people assume Attack of the Clones is the worst of the bunch. Let's see. Starman writes, insert Infinity War hype super chat. Infinity War, and we still got like almost 7 weeks to go. We still have several weeks to go. As of right now, I still don't know when I'm seeing it. Now, I'm going to CinemaCon on April 23rd. Whenever Marvel and Disney have had an MCU movie coming out close to CinemaCon, they usually do an advanced screening of it at CinemaCon. So I have a feeling I'm going to see it at CinemaCon, like April 23rd, 24th, 25th, something like that. But I'm pretty sure we'll have a screening of it as well before CinemaCon. So as soon as I know when I'm seeing it, I will let you guys know when I'm going to be seeing it. Jaxi Z writes, have you ever seen Person of Interest starring Cav, I always pronounce his name, Cav Ezel, and Emerson? One of the best TV shows about AI, in my opinion. Also, my name is Jesse, by the way. All right, Jesse. Well, I've seen 2 episodes of Person of Interest. 2 episodes. And I specifically watched 2 episodes because people talked about it a lot. And I gave it a shot, and I liked it. Why did I only watch 2 episodes? Because I just didn't have time to make it a part of my regular rotation. I was binging other things at the time, so I watched a couple episodes, liked it. I never got back around to it. But you're not the only person I've heard say they really like it. I know a lot of people that love that show, man. A lot of people really love that show. Let's see. Greetings from Gallifrey writes, who wins in a fight if they all fought each other? Hulk, Hellboy, Hulkbuster, Iron Man, The Thing, Optimus Prime, and Juggernaut. In your opinion, who wins? Hulk. Hulk wins. Anything short. I mean, there's a reason why when DC and Marvel did their big crossover thing in the comic books, that when they were making their matchups, Wonder Woman fought Storm, Robin fought Jubilee, Batman fought Captain America, Wolverine fought Lobo. Who's going to fight Superman? They had Hulk fight Superman. There's a reason why they have Hulk fight, because he's kind of the top of that pyramid. So I believe Hulk wins a fight out of all those guys. But again, it's really up to the writers. The writers would, if somebody was writing that fight, whoever the writer says wins is the one that wins. If I was writing the fight, Hulk wins the fight. Chris Martin writes, John, I'm so excited for Jon Favreau's Lion King. You and me both, man, completely. Cannot wait to see how the Stampede and the final fight between Simba and Scar. Can you tell I'm excited? Yeah, man, I just cannot wait for that movie to come out. I am so stoked for it. And look, I would just be excited anyway, just for knowing we were getting a new incarnation of Lion King. Just knowing we were getting another version of Lion King is enough to get me super excited. But after watching what Jon Favreau did with Jungle Book, and he's the one doing Lion King, it almost seems too good to be true. Like, I am seriously beside myself with excitement for that. I cannot wait. You and me both, man. I'm just counting down the days till we finally get a chance to see this thing. I cannot wait. Anthony Montrose writes, can you think of any movies that are amazing films, but you never want to watch them again? For me, it's Requiem for a Dream. That's a good one. The Pianist, that's another one. And recently, Foxcatcher. Somebody asked me a similar question to that recently. A couple that come to mind are Detroit. That was just out this year. Love that film. Brilliant film. Important film. I never want to watch it again. It's tough. It's hard to watch. And that's part of its brilliance. Schindler's List is another one. I just can't get myself... I just cannot bring myself to watch that again. It's just too hard. So yeah, there have been a couple of them, but the ones you're suggesting are certainly right up there on the list as well. Those are good ones to mention. Greetings wrote, Best Actress without an Oscar, Eva Green? Hey man, it's all subjective. If she's there for you, that's great. I wouldn't put her on my list personally. Good actress, but no, she for me personally wouldn't be in my personal conversation for that honor at that point. But hey, if she is for you, there you go. ZOMG Ruler writes, Beatles fan, where were you when John and George? No, honestly, I'm one of the only people out of all of my circle of friends. There's two things that make me an alien to all my circles of friends. One, I don't like the original Blade Runner. That makes me an outcast. Two, I do not like the Beatles. Never liked the Beatles. I always thought the Beatles were overrated. And, the dirty looks I get when I mention that. I mean, music is an art. Therefore, like movies, it's all subjective. But I could lie and try to fit in by saying, oh yeah, I love the Beatles. But I got to be honest, I don't like the Beatles. I'm never going to crap talk them. But if you're going to ask me directly, was I a Beatles fan? Where was I when John and George? I don't know what year John died. So I might have been before I was born. I'm not sure. George, no idea. It's, like I said, I wasn't a Beatles fan, so I wouldn't have remembered that. Tony W. writes, love the show. Thank you so much, Tony. Who is the better Lucifer? Lucifer Morningstar from Lucifer or Lucifer from Supernatural? Lucifer Morningstar. Don't get me wrong. I love the dude from Lost. I can't remember the actor's name, but the dude from Lost who plays Lucifer on Supernatural, he's great. He's great. But Lucifer Morningstar from the TV show Lucifer right now is it's not my favorite show on TV right now, but it's up there. But he is my favorite character on TV right now. Lucifer Morningstar on Lucifer is my favorite character on TV right now. And Lucifer, the show, is certainly one of my favorite shows on TV at the moment. But it's one of my favorites because I think, what's his name? The actor's name is Tom Ellis. And he plays Lucifer. And he's so good. But the entire cast is good. His brother, the angel Amedadil. Lucifer's main demon, Mazikeen, is also one of my favorite characters on TV. Mazikeen is an amazing character. The detective's not one of my favorite characters on TV, but her daughter is one of my probably my favorite child actor in the world right now. She's just adorable. You just eat her up with a spoon. I mean, she's just so delightful. Anyway, I could talk about Lucifer for hours. Dark Impact writes, "Hey John, I saw The Last Jedi for the first time last. I don't know what that means. I know, late to the party, but I loved it. Personally, I really don't know what all the fuss is about. It's worthy of being a Star Wars movie. Calm down, sweaties." Well, I mean, look, I quite enjoyed it. And again, look, they didn't do most of the things that I wanted them to do in that movie. But I ended up really appreciating what they did instead. Yes, I wanted to see Luke Skywalker whip some fools. I wanted to see him take out his lightsaber and wipe out 60 stormtroopers and a bunch of red guards and just take fools to school. That's what I wanted to see. I think that's what a lot of people wanted to see. But, pardon me. But, I had almonds earlier. I think I had a little almond thing still stuck right here. But, what we as film fans shouldn't do is if a movie doesn't do what I predetermined I wanted them to do, I'm not going to like it. We gotta be able to move beyond that. And I ended up really appreciating what they did. I actually thought what they did with Luke was genius. It was bold. It was different. It was unexpected. And I thought it was great. And I thought it was very consistent with the Luke Skywalker character. Very consistent with the Luke Skywalker character. I had this one dude. I don't know if he realized who he was talking to. He goes, if you like what they did with Luke, then you just don't understand Luke. I'm like, excuse me, boy? Just take a step back. I don't understand Luke. Me. Take a breath, kid. Just take a breath. Reevaluate what it is you're saying. I'm not going to sit here and say, no, you're the one who doesn't understand Luke, but do not remotely suggest for a second that I don't understand the character Luke Skywalker. Just don't make yourself look stupid, all right? It's fine if you didn't like it, but don't throw it. And I just got tired of seeing people, anybody who liked what they did just doesn't understand Luke. No, I understand Luke Skywalker. Believe that. And I loved it. That doesn't mean you're supposed to love it, and it doesn't mean if you didn't love it that you don't understand Luke. I understand Luke, and I loved it. You understand Luke, and you didn't love it. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But don't for a second start saying nonsense like, if you like what they did with Luke, then you don't understand Luke. Back up, child. Back up. Anyway. So, but at the same time, even I have issues with the film. I still remember the very first thing I tweeted. I was still at the premiere, walking out of the theater into the after party, and I was tweeting, hey, look, here's some things I don't like about this movie. I didn't like the Benicio del Toro character. I didn't like what they did with Finn. I didn't like what they did with Rose, and I hated the entire casino planet. And I said, besides that stuff, and that's significant stuff, but besides that stuff, I really enjoyed everything else about the film. But there are those things and so if I'm going to acknowledge those issues, I can understand why people didn't like it. Look, people were wanting to see Luke do something different. I get it. I do. And if people don't like the film, I understand they don't like the film. And I accept that other people don't like the film. That's cool. But you also got to accept, if you're somebody who doesn't like the film, you got to accept that there are a lot of us for good reasons who do like the film and appreciated what they did. Doesn't mean you're wrong for not liking it. Not at all. But yeah, anyway, that's the way. But anyway, Darth, I'm glad you had a chance to see it, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I always love it when somebody enjoys a film, even if it's a film I don't like. So thanks for sharing that, man. Ray Valero writes, John, better action film, Die Hard or Predator? Ooh. Well, there's two different ways you can answer that. One is, which is the better action movie? The better action movie is Die Hard, in my opinion. Which is the better action movie? Like, which movie has better action? I'll go Predator. Overall, Die Hard, I think, is the better movie. But I think the action in Predator is a little bit better. But, hey, look, it's a great question. There's no wrong answers asking about that one. But that's how I would personally answer it. Okay, next up, we've got Sam Fisher, who writes, while Jessica Jones Season 1 is not my favorite season of Marvel Netflix, that spot belongs to Daredevil Season 1. Kilgrave is my favorite villain of all the seasons. Kilgrave was a great villain. I'm not even a big fan. I don't hate. A lot of people saying, John, you hated Jessica Jones Season 1. No, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate Jessica Jones Season 1. But it didn't work for me. I acknowledge that tons of other people love it, and that's great. I'm never going to try to talk you out of loving it. But while I did not hate Jessica Jones Season 1, it didn't really work for me. I didn't like it. But even me, who didn't really like it all that much, Kilgrave was a fabulous villain. He was multi-dimensional, a lot of different emotional layers to him, with even self-conflicting motivations. It was just a really well-done villain. A really well-done villain. Because he was terrifying and menacing, but there was a real humanity to him as well, despite the fact that he was a meta. There was a real humanity to him as well as an evil, vile villain that just made him a rich character. And while I really like Ritter, what's the girl's first name? Miss Ritter, who plays Jessica Jones. She did a fantastic job playing the character. But what I think makes Jessica Jones Season 1 is Kilgrave. Kilgrave was a fabulous villain. And I think a big reason why so many people love that first season so much. Absolutely. All right. Spencer Smothers writes, you should buy movies off the Vudu app. They group your purchases from other platforms, Play, Amazon, etc., and offer Blu-ray extras with your purchase. Yeah, I've seen that. However, I don't have a lot of faith that Vudu will be around in 5 years. I'm not saying they won't, and I'm not talking crap on the company. Not at all. But I have much more faith that Google is still going to be around and in existence and thriving in 5 years from now than I do that Voodoo will. That's just my personal thing. I'm not dissing the service. I'm not saying anybody shouldn't use Voodoo. Not at all. If you use Voodoo, that's great. I actually used them a couple of times. But I just found that I really like just leveraging Google. So that's just where I like to buy my stuff from. Let's see. Just Plain Steve writes, sitting in the movie theater the other day, and I was blindsided by a trailer for an Overboard remake. Oh, yeah, that's right. There's this Overboard remake. And who's starring? I remember... Hold a second. Who's starring in that damn thing? Overboard remake. And the roles are reversed in this one, right? Because it's him that's like the rich one. Oh, that's Anna Faris. That's right. Anna Faris, John Hannah, Eva Longoria. So yes, and the roles are kind of reversed from what they were in the original Goldie Hawn was. So it was Goldie Hawn, right? Was it Goldie Hawn in the original Overboard with Kurt Russell? Anyway. Yeah, that's coming. Now remember, I'm cool. I am cool with remakes. Remake whatever you want. I am scratching my head a little bit about why remake that one. But hey, whatever they're doing it, hopefully it'll be good. I like Anna Faris, so who knows? Maybe it'll turn out good. Let's see. David Tapia writes, you previously mentioned how pirating is stealing, and I agree with you. But what about TV films that have never been available for sale? For example, Star Wars The Holiday Special, Disney's Song of the South, etc. It's an interesting question. I've never thought about it, so I don't have an answer. What I will say is this. I won't immediately jump up and say that's still stealing. I might if I think about it for a while. But, my whole argument is if somebody creates something with the intention of selling it, and you find a way to get around them and just take it without paying for it, that is stealing. Sorry, it is. You can try to justify piracy however you want. It doesn't change the fact that it is stealing. Somebody poured blood, sweat, tears, and money into creating something with the intention, with it being created for the purpose of selling it, and you go and take it without buying it, that's stealing. It is. You raise a very interesting moral question. What if it's something that's not for sale? Because if I'm going to base my whole argument on if somebody creates something with the purpose of sale and you just take it, blah, 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 well, what if it's not for sale? What if the Star Wars Holiday Special is not for sale? What about some Bolivian crime drama movie that only ever played in 2 theaters in Bolivia and never played anywhere else and isn't available anywhere else? Is downloading that piracy? Is that stealing? That's a very good moral question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that. But it is a great moral quandary. I'd have to think about that one. It does, because that introduces different parameters than what we're used to. I mean, look, 99.9999999% of the time, we're not dealing with one of those. We're dealing with, no, that movie's for sale. You can go buy it. You just choose to steal it. That's normally what piracy is. But the question you raise is a good one. I would have to think about that. I will go so far as to say I will not automatically just say it's stealing because of the whole thing that it's not available for sale. It's not like you have an option to buy it. It's a good question. I'll have to think about it. Daryl Best Wadley writes, love the show. Thank you so much, Daryl. I look forward to it every day. Do you think we will see any Avengers fighting each other in Infinity War? Thor versus Hulk was great. Yeah, Thor versus Hulk, both in the first Avengers and in Thor 3 was fantastic. I don't think so. I don't think they're going to have time for that. I really don't. I think Banner's going to get his ass handed to him by Thanos, land on Earth, and start the business of telling everybody, look, you got to get over your differences because there's somebody who's coming right now who can take us all out. And we got to get past our differences, and we've got to get the team back together, or else we are dead. So I don't know that the movie's going to have time to see heroes fighting each other in this. Who knows? Maybe, because we see in the trailer that Captain America and is in Wakanda, but we also see War Machine there too, and we see Black Widow there. What if War Machine is in Wakanda because he was tracking down Captain America and he was there to arrest Captain America? Maybe then we'll see an initial fight and Captain America will beat War Machine because he's Captain America. But maybe I have a feeling no, though. I have a feeling the heroes fighting each other thing has got to be put in the back seat for the next couple of Avengers movies. Who knows, though? Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Jackie DeLuna writes, why did Killmonger burn the herbs if he wanted black people to have more power where he could have multiple people with the power of the Black Panther. Oh, that's easy. He didn't want anybody else to have his power. He didn't want anybody else to have his power. Remember when the woman was explaining, like when he was asking, why do we need more of these flowers? Why do we need more of these plants? Well, for the next king. Next king? Killmonger, he had some altruistic motivations, but at his core, he was a villain. He was a bad guy, and he wanted power. And that was shown when she mentioned the words, for the next king, or for another king, the new king, whatever. And he's like, there's one king, and that's me, grabbed by the throat. When I say burn it, I mean that shit. You burn it. That's why. Because he has tons of vibranium weapons. He has soldiers. He has a military. He has more than enough to carry out what his plan was, which was to kill everybody else in the world and their children. That was his plan. He had everything he needed that. He didn't want anybody else to be his equal. He wanted nobody else to be his equal. So I think that was a pretty clear message about why he wanted those flowers burned. Let's see. Nathan Oswald writes, do you think Hidalgo will become head of Lucasfilm? No. I think he's an extremely valuable person there, but he's not a filmmaker. He's never been a filmmaker. You don't make somebody who has never been a filmmaker and doesn't understand, that stuff, suddenly the head of your studio. You just don't do that. So no, I don't see that. I think he will always be an incredibly valuable part of Lucasfilm, an incredibly high position person in Lucasfilm, an incredible treasure to the Star Wars community. But no, he will not become the head of Lucasfilm. Now watch. Tomorrow he'll be the new head of Lucasfilm. Let's see. Greetings from Gallifrey writes, in Star Wars Episode 3, when the Emperor sees Yoda, when the Emperor says to Yoda that Vader will become more powerful than them both. So does that mean that Vader could kill Yoda? I don't know. Maybe. It is quite possible that, when Vader killed the Emperor, I've had a lot of discussions with other Star Wars friends and just read casually other online discussions between other Star Wars fans about, when Vader ultimately picks up the Emperor in Return of the Jedi and throws him down that pit, would he have just been able to take the Emperor in a one-on-one fight anyway? And a lot of people, Star Wars fans, believe that, Vader just could have whooped the Emperor if he wanted to. Because the Emperor himself foresaw that. The Emperor himself foresaw that Vader was going to become even more powerful than he is. And when we see Vader in Return of the Jedi, he's pretty much at the height of his powers, right? Or maybe a little bit on the decline at that point, but there's a lot of Star Wars fans who feel that even without sneaking up behind the Emperor and tossing him down the chasm, a lot of people believe that he would have been able to take the Emperor anyway. If so, could he have taken Yoda too? Yeah, there's a good argument to be made for that. Again, it's kind of like the comic book one. It would all depend on who was writing the scene, but I think there's strong arguments to be made that Vader, at that time, could have taken out Yoda and could have taken out the Emperor. That's why I believe that Luke Skywalker, at the height of his power, was more powerful than the Emperor was. I do. I also think Luke Skywalker could have taken out Snoke. I believe that as well. I believe Luke Skywalker was more powerful than Snoke, which is one of the reasons Snoke feared him. But anyway, that's just thoughts of mine. There are arguments to be made on both sides for certain, but that's just kind of the way I see it. All right, we got about, just a couple of minutes left here. Hey, listen, guys. I'm not going to be able to get to all of the rest of the questions. If your question does not get answered, don't worry. Tomorrow afternoon, I will put up a companion video that will have any remaining questions that I don't get to here, okay? It will be in a video tomorrow. I absolutely promise you that. Okay. D. Wathers writes, John, I think you ruined Paddington for me. I didn't mean to ruin it for you. Sorry about that. Sam Fisher writes, Halt and Catch Fire is about pioneers in the computer industry. The title refers to undefined opcode that, if executed, causes computer to self-destruct. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that is the most I have ever known about Halt and Catch Fire. I am fascinated by the show. Do me a favor, guys. Jump in the comments section of the video and just let me know, is it on Netflix? Can I watch it on Netflix? Is it on Hulu? Let me know where I might be able to check it. I'll start checking it out. Jeremiah J. writes, after 5 years of becoming a better actor, let's have The Rock be the Super Skrull. I don't know. I think all I would see is The Rock. to be honest with you. I think Black Adam is a different thing, but I think putting him in a role like that, I'm a little bit nervous as all I would see is The Rock. So we'll see about that. Dirk Diggler writes, "Hey John, would you consider doing a commentary video watching Star Wars The Last Jedi? It would be like your audience going with you to the movies." It's not a bad idea. Yeah, I'll consider that. Maybe I'll get a buddy of mine or two. Like maybe I'll get my friend, maybe I'll get my friend Dorina to come over and do that with me. Yeah, you know what? I'll think about that. I will seriously think about that. Let's see. Iceman writes, when do you suspect Venom will be given an official rating? How likely do you think they'll go R? Somebody asked me that exact same question the other day. It's possible. I'm not on the train that I think it's absolutely necessary. I think there's a lot you can do with a hard PG-13. There's a lot you can get away with these days with PG-13. I think you can do a Venom film because remember, Deadpool only really needed the R rating for the language. That's really the main reason they needed, because everything else they could have gotten away with. But with Venom, I'm not expecting a lot of language. I'm not expecting a lot of like pornographic sex scenes. So it's really just about the violence. And if you don't make blood red, you can get away with a lot of gory stuff. If you make blood black, you can get away with a lot of gory stuff. A lot of movies use that trick by taking out the redness in blood, using it, making it look darker, almost making blood look black, and they get away with getting a PG-13 rating. It would be nice if they got a rated R. I think with the success of Deadpool and Logan, I think it opens the doors for them to go R. If I had to put $5 on it, I would guess it's going to be rated R. That's just a guess, though. I don't know for sure. But if they do announce it a PG-13, I don't think that's going to be anything to panic about. I really don't. All right, final question of the day. Comes to us from Chris Martin, who writes, "If Yoda can bring lightning down and catch a tree on fire, I think he can do that as a Force ghost. Or if he can do that as a Force ghost, since Luke is now a Force ghost, or is he? I would love to see him school Kylo in a legit lightsaber fight." Well, you and me both, man. And you guys know, I still have a little bit of a theory that maybe Luke's not dead. Don't get me wrong. Again, let me give the big asterisk. If I had to put $5 down if Luke was dead or not, I'd say he's dead, yes. But I think there's a chance. I think there's a chance that Luke Skywalker is still alive in Star Wars Episode 9. I still think there's a chance. Don't forget, Mark Hamill also once talked about, remember Colin Trevorrow was going to be directing Star Wars Episode 9, and Mark Hamill in an interview talked about how he and Colin Trevorrow talked about Luke in Episode 9 and blah, blah. This is before The Last Jedi ever came out. So I think clearly there was a plan to either have a living Luke or a Force Ghost Luke in 9. So I am not abandoning hope with that. If he's a Force Ghost, we've never seen a Force Ghost fight a living person. It would be a first. So that could be cool for them doing something like that for the first time. I'd be down for it. I don't know that they'll do it, but I would certainly be down for it. Look, they've got to be aware that there's a huge chunk of the Star Wars fan community that is aching to see Luke Skywalker fight. And whether they go about that now with JJ retconning his death and saying, actually, he never died. He just teleported. He used the Force to transport himself to another place because he had to get away off that island because now Kylo Ren knew where that island was now and he needed to get off it. Or something else. I don't know. Maybe it's a Force Ghost. Maybe it's not. Whatever. But I do think we're going to see Luke in Episode 9. Whether he's a Force Ghost, whether he's still alive, I don't know. But I do think he's going to be a 9. And I think we'll see him do something action-oriented. Whether it's a lightsaber fight or calling down lightning or something, I don't know. But we'll just have to wait and see. All right, guys. That will do it for me for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me. This has been a lot of fun, guys. Once again, don't forget, guys, if you sent in a live question and I didn't get to it, don't worry, it'll be on the companion video tomorrow. It'll absolutely be on the companion video tomorrow. Make sure you check that out tomorrow. Okay, guys, that will do it for me. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until tomorrow's The John Campea Show, bye-bye.